The Box Seat, brought to you by our stable of sponsors. It's your final box seat for 2023. Hope the festive season's going well for you and Michael Guerin. I'm sure it has been for you. You actually appear to have a new tie. Was that a Christmas gift?
No, Gregory, no need to be facetious. This is actually an older tie I'm wearing to celebrate summer, Gregory, because it's very summery all around the country. I've been enjoying the races from varied tracks, Gregory, and a little bit jealous I couldn't be down on the West Coast in Mbulla for the West Coast and Reefton circuit, but we do have a very interesting meeting coming up at Alexandra Park on Sunday night. And I say interesting because the best horse in the country's there, Greg, and some really good horses are there, but it's like a mini meeting. I'm not sure exactly what's happened to New Year's Eve at Alexandra Park. We'll get into that later. That's coming up. What happened last week, Greg, was really cool. I really enjoyed the Invercargill Cup in a very special Group 1. For a hard-working team down there from mid-Canterbury. So far it's been a broad and varied festive season for harness racing, Gregory, and I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah, absolutely, I am too. So what can you look forward to on your box seat today? We do have the Invercargill review, as Michael's just mentioned, including a Treacherous double. We'll head to Cambridge for Christmas Eve action, Westport for Boxing Day, and Gore. They had their cups for the Pacers and the Trotters. It's New Year's Eve, Alexandra Park, 8 races there. We'll preview, of course, Akuta going around in the Cup. Season highlights for both of us, horses to follow, and then we will wrap it all up. So this is time for us to go to Invercargill because it was the Ascot Park Hotel Invercargill Cup. It was a good field, led into the straight by the 2 favourites, Self Assured and Beach Ball. But there was an upset in the form of American Me off the back of a very brave 4th in the IRT New Zealand Cup, beautifully handled by Sarah O'Reilly. She grabs win at number 1 at Group 1 level. And what about that, Michael, beating the master, Mark Purdon, at his own game? I thought she drove this horse beautifully, made Self Assured work that extra bit hard, and it was the telling factor in the end.
Great drive, aggressive drive, which is not easy for a young lady when you've got Mark Purdon and Ricky May. Now imagine growing up as Sarah O'Reilly and Mark Purdon and Ricky May, because she would have been a teenager over much of the last 10 years, and seeing them just win everything, and then they're on the 2 favourites and she's had to say, no, I'll tell you when you can lead and I'll tell you how fast we're going here. I love the fact she was able to get up and win. If you were to say on the first day of 2023, Greg, that American Me would beat Self Assured, people would have thought you were absolutely off your rocker. And that's a testament not only to the work Sarah's done with the horse, but the white boys. I don't know them as well as you do, but I know they work really hard at their craft. They're not scared to do things differently. I've asked them about this horse before and they said, we haven't really changed that much. They've just found the right formula for him. So look, massive congratulations to them and to Sarah, Greg. It was a really feel-good win because as much as I like Gene Feast and all of us are mates with Mark, if it had won the Invercargill Cup, I sort of would have been like, oh, well, I've seen that before. Whereas this was a new type of thing, much like last year when Carter Dalgetty won his first Group 1 in the same race. And maybe that's what it should be, Greg. Maybe not all the big races should be won by the same people all the time. So I really enjoyed that for all the people involved, and he continues to get better. I'm not sure he's in the best 5 countries in the horses, Greg, but he keeps turning up every week, perhaps more consistently than some of the others, and considering most of our major cups are 3,000 metre standing, 3,200 metre standing starts, Greg, well, that seems to suit him just fine.
Yeah, he's a terrific stayer, and I was lucky enough to have Brent White on radio last week, and it was a couple of days after the race, but he still had a croaky voice, as he should have done, Michael. But to win it with his son Tim, their first Group 1 win. This horse came into the stable about mid-June. Of course, started out with Doug Gale, had multiple unplaced runs at Manawatu, came down to Gavin Smith. He had some success with the horse, but once it's joined this barn, I think it's had 12 or 13 starts now for 5 wins. They went 357, which I think, when you consider what Self Assured's had to do in the run, plus come off the back mark, a great run from him. He's just been a remarkable horse, the $2 million earner, of course. Beach Ball, a different sort of race for him. He wasn't able to just get the front and bully them, so I still thought he was very good, Michael. But yeah, all of the plaudits with American Me, with the Whites, and with Sarah O'Reilly. And when I spoke to Sarah about what it meant, you know, her biggest win and the race she wanted to win was the Methven Cup, which she achieved with this horse. Now she's won a Group 1 race with this horse too, and there's no reason to think that he won't go on at least for another season. There's a big group of owners involved in him as well, really enjoying themselves. But yeah, there was just so many different varied stories around him taking out the Invercargill Cup of 2023.
Well, he's beautifully placed because so many of our cups are 2-mile standing starts. If they were 1980 mobiles, he probably wouldn't win any of them, but he gets a chance to go to these races. Obviously, he's very sound, and look, he'll be a factor. You would start to think to yourself, Greg, because you wouldn't know who's going to turn up at an Auckland Cup in May. I'd have no idea. And there might be a better eclipse, and Akuta's probably going to be there. But it'd be tempting to come north and have a go, because you've got a horse who's won himself a bunch of money now. So yeah, I think he's been a really interesting and one of the more unusual additions to open class we've ever had, because that losing Manawatu form doesn't tend to be a springboard to Group 1 victory. Probably over the time I've been doing harness racing, only Blossom Lady and Yule Star have come from that region. Yule Star spent very little time racing in the CD, very little. And he was mainly straight into the big stage. Blossom Lady did race there, but she was too good for the horses there much of the time. And then she moved south and became one of the all-time greats. But this is a different type of thing altogether. Like, he wasn't by any means a star of that circuit. So I think the bigger tracks help him, Greg. I know Invercargill's not a big track, but I think Manawatu might have been too small for him because he's not a speed horse and he is a stayer. But yeah, as much as his name will go on the Invercargill Cup, Greg, the Whites and Sarah O'Reilly, for me, more the story of what we saw last Friday.
Yeah, and he's won over $250,000 now, the horse, and Sarah's going to wrap up her junior drivers, and what a remarkable career she's had in that part of it, and I've no doubt that she'll continue on. Of course, she's third on the premiership, so when she goes to the open ranks next year, then I'm sure that she'll just continue on her winning way, as has this horse, Oscar Bonavena. Here he is getting to the outside, Michael. You can see the rhythm he's in here and how easily he picks them up. And when you see the slow-mo on Mark, he's got time to sit back and think about it and go, you know what, this is just like a Sunday stroll. I'm just cruising down to win another very good race, the David Moss. And it's win 23, 4 in a row. Loving the Port good, Majestic Man good, but they're just simply not as good or going as good as he is.
This might seal him Trotter of the Year. Again, I'm not saying he's better than Muscle Mountain, because he probably isn't, but he's turned up and won more races, and he's won them in the back end of the season, Greg, and once the voting forms come out about February, that recency bias is going to be really pronounced, because at the moment, he's unbeatable, and he's unbeatable in a vastly different array of ways of doing it. He's led in a sprint on the grass and won. He's come from well back in the field to win the Dominion. He's cut through the inside, which is a place $1.40 chances don't go very often in the trotting free for all. And then he's gone to Invercargill, started off a back mark and come out of the 1-1. So he's done it all, Greg. Come from near last to win the Canterbury Park Trotting Cup, and of course he won the D.G. Jones Memorial. So it's such a vastly a weird body of work for one horse to do all those things in effectively one campaign. The question now for Mark, and I spoke to him at length Tuesday night, I keep forgetting what day of the week it is do you go to Melbourne? And I think if Just Believe wasn't going to the Great Southern Star, which is on the first Saturday of February, Greg, and it's 2 races, as some of us will know. I think if Just Believe wasn't there and absolutely flying, it'd be incredibly tempting to go, because you think he might have the wood on Queen Elida, and I'm not sure Muscle Mountain's going. I don't think he's going. So, but with Just Believe there, and he has got a little tiny quarter crack, Oscar Bonavena, and they're able to keep it under control at home. But if you go there and you hit a harder track than he's used to, or you need to push and shove him or race him twice in the same night, Greg, that could become troublesome. After that conversation, my gut feeling is he won't go. Now, if we heard in the next 2 weeks that Just Believe had a runny nose, or he was sick or something, which we hope doesn't happen, I think Mark might change his mind. But I think with him there, and you saw him at Albion Park, I think Oscar Bonavena will stay home, because Tony's got a few issues with Bolt for Brilliance. I don't think he's come back up after the Christchurch trip as well as he wants. So Tony's battling with Bolt for Brilliance. So if he's just muddling around over here, and you've only got Muscle Mountain and Oscar Bonavena, Greg, I would think they're going to dominate everything in their path here until the trot slot race. So I think I would keep them at home. What about you? You were at Albion Park. You've seen Just Believe. You've seen plenty of this horse. Would you roll the dice and go to a Great Southern Star?
Oh, I don't think so, and I've gleaned a lot out of what you've just said then, plus speaking with Nathan. They've got this horse in the perfect space at the moment, and they don't really want to risk going back to the way he was going, 6-8 months ago. So I believe they'll stay here. I really do. So yeah, I don't think they'll go. I think they'll stay here, and he has to be Trotter of the Year. The Row Cup was won by Love in the Port, of course. He's won the back end Group 1 races. Yeah, you're right. The latest performances will stick in the mind of those who get a vote. So yeah, he'll get Trotter of the Year, and deserves it, Michael, because he's been the best.
Here's one for you. You were at Albion Park, and when you're on track and you see a horse, it engenders more emotion in you than just watching it on television. Pit them both off the second line. Let's pick a random race. Let's pick the Row Cup, yep, or the Dominion. Put them both on the second line so no one's got any advantage. Who would win out of Just Believe and Oscar Bonavena?
I think Oscar's faster, but I think Just Believe is a so much more rounded horse than when I saw him the year before, and now I've seen him do what he did in the Inter-Dominion final. And saying that, Michael, the time wasn't great, but he only had to go fast enough to win. He was just beautifully handled by Greg Sugars. I think Oscar would be, for sheer speed, beat him, but Just Believe has the ability to move in a race and put himself in the race, and therefore at the moment I think he's the best going around in Australasia, which I wouldn't have thought that pre-Inter-Dominion.
I can't disagree with you. He's the most complete trotter, because Muscle Mountain I think is the fastest and maybe the best, talented, but he has his issues, and they keep coming up. So I think it's a really interesting first half of the season. I know who does win out of this: Cambridge. The trot slot race, I'm absolutely convinced Just Believe will head there. I've got no doubts.
And I want to see Muscle Mountain there, and I want to see Oscar Bonavena. You know what I think of Muscle Mountain. He's just a fantastic horse. You get all of those there with Queen Elida, and if Bolt can come back to his best, wow, what a race.
Yeah, and then you've got 2 or 3 other slots where you might get a Majestic Man or a Love in the Port, or another one of the Australians like Aldebaran and Zeus if he comes back. So yeah, I think it's almost potentially the race of 2024 we have the most anticipation about. So, yeah, I would love to see Bolt go to the Great Southern Star, not because, of course, Akuta's going to be there for the Hunter Cup. It's on the same night this year, which is really interesting. But, yeah, my gut instinct is if your future's betting 70-30, no.
All right, we mentioned earlier about the Treacherous double. Let's get into that now at Invercargill. Here was Baby. She's a maiden no more, Michael, by Captain Treacherous, obviously, out of Oh Baby, who was a multiple Group 1 winner. And once she found the front here, she was really, really good. Flying Alley, great getting home. Remission doing a good job too. But, yeah, this was her race to lose, and she didn't.
Look, I thought it was a better win than maybe that shows, because she did have to go pretty hard early to hold off an early challenger. I think it shows the difference, and I say this without any lack of respect. it shows the difference between good Canterbury form through a Cup Carnival and good Southland form for young horses. Because Nathan's 2 horses in that race are pretty darn good, but it's just so hard to step up that extra 2 or 3 seconds against a horse who's been rocking and rolling around Addington. And you often see that when the Southland horses come to Addington in the 2-year-old grade, they're just found a length or 2 off, and then they'll improve with the experience. But you saw that there quite jarringly, like she did the most work and was still too good, whereas had she done that at Addington against the better Canterbury one, she wouldn't have won. So it's something to play, to keep in your mind when you're betting over the summer period. They just go, it's not so much faster, Greg, because the times in Southland are really quick. It's just the overall quality. There's more depth to those Addington races, as you would expect. It's the home of harness racing. And often, Greg, it's a really important thing to take on board when you are gambling down there. So, yeah, that was one of the best examples I've seen of it for the last year or so.
Yeah, raced by the Whitelocks, who of course bred that filly. What about this filly, raced by the Southern men, Dave Kennedy and Cleland Murdoch, and barrier 8, no issue at all. Craig Ferguson took luck out of play here. She's a good horse, Treacherous Gal. She won the Southland Oaks down there, of course. She's now 8 from 19, Michael. Amora Infidia was good. Uga Chaka getting home on the inside in the Tim Trathan colours. Nothing wrong with that at all, but Treacherous Gal, she's pretty smart and she proved it again.
Good drive. This race was one at the start when they decided to launch. Craig Ferguson said, I'm going forward, and that was the winning of the race. Had he sat back and let Amora Infidia have an easy enough lead, would have been a different type of race. I liked Tim Trathan's horse. Unusual looking thing. It's got a very long back. But yeah, these are nice horses who are going to end up being factors potentially in the mares ranks in the new season. But it's funny, isn't it, Greg? Captain Treacherous has arrived just out of the blue. We've still got Bettor's Delight doing amazing things, but 3 or 4 years ago, there were no horses called Treacherous anything in New Zealand. And now, instantly, when I'm looking through a form guide or when the fields come out and you look through them, you second take them. Yep. They've become the new second take horses. Oh, this has got Treacherous in its name. It'll be by Captain Treacherous. It might have some ability. To have them both part of our harness racing lives at the same time is really interesting, because you couldn't find 2 more different stallions than Bettor's Delight, who leaves them nuggety and tough and really relaxed, and Captain Treacherous, who, if you fire them up too much, they can go a bit loopy, but they can run like hell. And it's interesting watching them battle each other. And we saw that right back at the start of the year with Captain Treacherous, Captain Ravishing and Leap to Fame.
Yep.
Vastly different horses with totally different skill sets. And we've seen that's probably been the story of 2023 on the track. That consistent battle of American speed, which suits Menangle, and they love it, against that leap to fame toughness. It's been fascinating to watch. What it is going to mean, Greg, is there is the most obvious cross for those Bettor's Delight mares.
We
were waiting for it for 10 years. There's so many great Bettor's Delight mares, and you're thinking, who are they all going to go to?
Yeah.
Now, they're not all going to go to the same stallion, of course they're not.
No.
But he's turned up as the one where you go, wow, well, that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely it does. And congratulations to everyone involved in the Invercargill meeting. They did 1.5 million, a terrific turnover on a Friday. So to Jason Broad and everyone involved, awesome stuff. The Canada Stakes obviously was pretty special to them as well. Right, Christmas Eve, it was wet at Cambridge Raceway, but it didn't stop this horse. Don't Stop Me Now. Real smarty, isn't he? And beautifully handled by the master, Michael.
Well, this was one at the start, and ironically, he blew the first start. He was quite fractious, talking about Captain Treacherous. He was quite fractious in the first attempt at the standing start, and they looped them round again. Quite remarkably, he and Mickey Shan have been the best 2 in this grade of intermediate horses in the north for the last couple of starts. Put him on a different track, going in a different direction with all sorts of hassles for Mickey Shan traffic-wise, and they've still corralled it. So I think, Greg, they're 2 horses. I'm not saying they're going to be open class stars. I don't see that. But they're 2 horses who are going to work their way to open class, because they've got proven standing start manners. They can handle both ways of racing, and they can handle good tracks and off tracks. So they'll work their way there. They'll be horses who will turn up one day, you would think, in some sort of decent Cups race. Another indicator, Greg, for punting things for us to look out for. If you're betting in those big handicap races, Greg, we've seen American Me, and now we've seen this horse. Gee, it's a big advantage being on the marker pegs, because it's so tough to move in those races. And even if you do move, someone follows you and you work really hard to get parked, and then someone pushes you 3 back on the outside. It's just so advantageous to be off the front, step, run, and make your own luck. And both the Cups we've seen so far in today's program are exactly that type of winner.
Yeah, well, here's something a little bit different. It's great tradition, isn't it? Heading to Patterson Park, which is the Westport Trotting Club. Here's Johnny Mack. Johnny Mack taking out the Pulse Energy Westport Cup in the hands of Wilson House, is in awesome form at the moment. We know he drove 5 in a day at Manawatu recently. Homebush lad who's so great in these country cups. Franco Marrick's going to get his share of wins too. Pretty brave third from him. But Johnny Mack continuing a great run for the Michael House team, and of course Michael from the coast, so it would mean a lot to the family, I think, here.
Yeah, and it's a traditionally great race. People love this race. It's been a hugely sought after race for a long time. I think Michael's team are being aided by having Wilson there, because I think, Greg, one thing I've learned from doing both codes is if you have somebody who can consistently ride or drive your horses and then give the trainer feedback and say, well, this or that didn't work, and it's the same person all the time, it really helps. And you see that with lots of great associations, going way back to Barry Purdon and Tony Hurley 30 years ago. So I think that's been advantageous. Wilson's growing and it's helping Dad along the way. This horse out of Carabella, so it looks a little bit like Mum. And I suppose when you went to the sales or wherever this horse came from, I don't really know, Greg, all those years ago, you don't think to yourself, oh, wow, I hope
It'll win a Westport Cup.
We're going to win the Westport Cup. But he did. And Michael's doing a really good job with his team. He's placing them in the right races at the right time. By the time you see this, the second day at Westport would have been held. And I think they've done a pretty good job to hold this meeting together, Greg. A lot of traditional meetings lose their way a little bit, not with the crowds, but with the depth of horses. I still think it needs a little bit more oomph to get 2 or 3 more good horses to go across to Westport.
So what's the answer to that? Stake money?
I wouldn't mind the bonus coming back.
Yeah.
Or a bonus of some sort. It's just really hard to put a horse on the float, because I think, Greg, a lot of people.
I think they've got a Set and Shield trotting bonus, haven't they? That's where the trotting race on the second day comes from. But
yep. That's the second day $20,000 race over 2 miles is a great idea. But yeah, it needs a bit of oomph from somewhere, because the crowd's still going to turn up and the turnover's still really good. But the fields were a little bit skinnier than maybe they could have been. I'm not sure, but there's some smart people and some very passionate people working over there, Greg. And yeah, I think an extra 20 horses to that meeting would have extrapolated the turnover enormously. Yeah,
definitely. Win 12 for Johnny Mack. Let's go to Gore. Always a good day down there, and this was the Pacing Cup. Michael, won by Sandwave. This is a hell of a training performance. We know this horse's talent. Win number 10 in his career, but he hadn't started since April, Michael, so big ups to Nathan Williamson here. Beating Hazer, who's a perennial place getter in the country cups and always races well, as does Captain Tom. But Sandwave, he's a smarty, isn't he? And this is a wonderful family. Goes back to the family of Maureen's dream.
Well, he's always looked like he's going to be a good horse. And I think he'll end up as a New Zealand Cup horse. I'm not sure he'll end up in a New Zealand Cup, but I think he'll end up good enough to go to one if Nathan wants to go to him. I think as good a training performance as it was, it goes to show that Nathan has good horses to work with at home, because you can't pull that off unless you do, Greg. But people know my views on Nathan Williamson. I think he's an outstanding young horseman, and every time I see his colours, Greg, again, he's a second take person. When you're going through the fields for betting in the south, when you see one of Nathan's, you stop and go, right, I better look at this thing's trials, because it has to be a chance. He simply doesn't line horses up, Greg, unless they're ready to go.
Yeah, and we know the big syndicate that part owns the horse, they would have celebrated in the right way. Chris Alcock's also involved in that. Of course, he races Pembroke Playboy. Let's go to the feature trotting win down there. This is a cracking finish. Andy Hall, Blair Orange driving for Robert and Jenna Dunn, was successful. Jimmy Carter loving the port. Just a terrific finish to this race, but Andy Hall, win number 9 at start 54 for him, gets there by the barest of margins, but what a terrific finish to a very even crop that are going to do battle, Michael, not only on this day, but there's a few days coming up, Omakar and the like, that they'll be going around again.
Yeah, good mid-race move, got Andy Hall the lead, and that was the winning of the race, but pretty much what you expect from Blair, who's going to end 2023 with some huge numbers. One of my favourite horses in that race, Greg, I like little Maui. He's just a horse I've always liked since he was a little 3-year-old. I'm a historical fan of the McCormick clan because I remember years ago, 35 years ago, God, that makes me sound old.
Surprise trooper?
Well, no, I was working for Graham Shearman.
Yes. One
of my favourite moments in harness racing. I was working for Graham Shearman and the late Doug McCormick.
Yes.
And Doug was one of those horsemen who did things his own way. We're at Shermy's place. And g'day to you, Shermy. I saw Graham during Cup Week. It was a real highlight to see him and Winsome. So I'm working for the vet because I knew I wanted to do this for a job and I wanted to learn about horses. So Doug McCormick turns up at the Tynwald Vet Clinic and he's got these 2 horses. And Doug walks into the thing, and me and Graham are in there with the small animals doing something, I don't know, spaying something. And Doug walks in and he said, I brought these 2 horses across, I want their teeth to be done. As good as gold. And Graham goes, bring them in. But Doug would take them off the float and not put any ropes on them. And he would walk around and the horses would follow them like big 480 kilo dogs.
Yes.
So he had no lead ropes on them. So he just let them off the back of the float and he walked around the back of the clinic to the stabling area where we would do the horse's teeth or whatever we were doing to them. And they just followed him around the corner. And I just sat there and went, what is going on here? No lead ropes. And once he had finished, they were standing there. I think we did their teeth or we did something to them. And then Doug just walked back and just said, literally, get on the float. And they just walked up and got on the float.
Yeah.
And ever since then, you think, these are people who genuinely have family pets.
Yeah.
And I don't know the rest of the McCormick family that well. I've met
David's got this horse. Yeah. Lawrence is a great bloke. So yeah.
So and I met David when this horse came up for the Jewels a couple of years ago.
Yep.
Anyway, and I've always
I'll tell you what, one thing I will tell you is Maui you wouldn't be able to do that with. Maui's got a mind of its own, but can really run and it'll win. I'll guarantee you, Michael, it will win a race through this circuit. It's almost a certainty on that performance.
It'll turn up in the Dominion one day. Because one thing about the McCormicks, they do not back down from the challenge.
Absolutely not.
Of all the things I've seen in racing, and I've been to lots of countries and seen lots of weird things, that thing stuck in my mind. I was like, who are these people? And to this day, every time I see the colours, I think to myself, yeah, I hope this goes good.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's leave that there, take a short break on your box seat. On the other side, it's New Year's Eve and it's Alexandra Park, so we're going to preview some of the big races for you. Welcome back into your box seat. Time for us to get into Alexandra Park. Yes, it is New Year's Eve. Michael mentioned it earlier, the best horse in the country, Akuta, goes round. This is the Lincoln Farms Franklin Cup. This is him running second in the IRT New Zealand Cup. He brings this sort of form, Michael, even off the 30 metres. He's going to take an awful lot of beating.
Well, he is. I rang Mark for the viewers on the show because I want them to have the best possible information and said, what do you make of Akuta versus Don't Stop Dreaming? So here's exactly what he said. It was a 2-part conversation. I said, Don't Stop Dreaming first. He said, no hassles with the standing start. He's a very well-mannered horse. He'll be fine. And Tony Hurley will drive him. So he said, he will go well. I said, okay, what about head-to-head, Akuta versus him? He said, I'd still have to go Akuta. I said, well, he's a bit fat and he gets a bit round. I'll tell you the whole conversation so it feels like you're there. I said, he's a bit fat and he's a bit round. Mark said, no, he's worked really well the last couple of times. I've given him a couple of hard hit-outs and he'll be fine. So taking that into play, I think the $2.10 the tab gave is very fair, Gregory, because when he's won his 2 major signature races this spring, the Ashburton Flying Stakes and the Kaikoura Cup. Both times he settled last and looped the field and won. Well, that's effectively what he's going to try and need to do here. He's going to settle last, but he settles last anyway. Even if he was off the front, he'd probably settle last. So I don't think the handicap's too bad for him, unless, Greg, a horse like Bark off the front line tries and runs him along and they Shanghai out to about a 50-metre gap or something crazy like that. It's only a small field. I don't think that'll happen. And the other thing is, the horses off the 15-metre mark, Don't Stop Dreaming, Old Town Road, and All American Lover, they need to move at some stage. They can't all sit back. So if Akuta connects onto them, he should get dragged into the race. I think as we record this, he's still $2. I think that's really fair. I don't think he'll start that because the name recognition from all the Gallops punters on an early Sunday night and all the Aussies betting into the race, they all know Akuta. They don't know the others quite so well. On Old Town Road, spoke to John Dickey. He said the horse is over the skin infection he had. He thinks he's got the best version of him back and he's really happy to be back at Alexandra Park. I said, can you beat Akuta? He said, maybe, but of course we know how good Akuta is. Factoring all that in, Akuta top pick, and I'm happy with the $2. Don't Stop Dreaming, I want to see at this level first, Greg, before I think he can win. And I think Old Town Road's ready to improve, and in my mind, he actually becomes the second pick in the race. For as good as Don't Stop Dreaming is, he's going to need to learn some new tricks this week. Of course, it's his first standing start.
Yeah, first standing start, first time Alexandra Park. I went back and had a look at the workout performance of Old Town Road. He was excellent. He beat a horse that he should have, DJ Rock, but he did it quite nicely. And like you, I spoke to John, and he's very happy to be back at the park. So I think the $6 for him, yep, you can play that. Probably top two with Akuta, the clear top pick there. Let's leave the Lincoln Farms Franklin Cup there and go to the featured trotting race, Michael. They're the last two races on the program. This is the Green Lane Trotters Cup. Here is Dream of You, who was excellent on this occasion. He's now won 4 of his last 5. This was his fresh up performance. We heard from David Butcher on this show that, well, Derek Ball thought he'd need the run, and he won this really nicely. Beating race rival Resolve, who's a $2.30 favourite for this race. Congrazia Love was in that fresh up, finished 5th, just battled the last wee bit. Surprised that it's inside favouritism at $4.50 of Dream of You and Sacred Mountain, Michael. So an interesting market there with Resolve being the favourite.
I think she was rushed into that last race, and why wouldn't you? She got good stake money out of it, but she raced on Sunday, flew up, then raced in that on Friday. Well, that's incredibly rare. So, well, the way this race stacks up, she's off a 20-metre handicap, but Dream of You is off 10 but unruly. So their handicaps are the same as last time they raced. But here's the factor which is interesting. She could stand on the inside of the 20-metre mark. I think she'll end up in front of Dream of You, even from 10 metres behind it, because she can go straight through on the inside of him. And Dream of You is not fast away. So I think she'll get tactical advantage. I think 2.3 is too short. But John said she's far better settled because John's now taken over the training of her from Paul Nairn. Far better settled on his property now than she was when she rushed up last time. So if she's in front of Dream of You, she gets a chance to beat it. But he was really good last start, Greg, and I can't believe he's not clear second favourite. In my mind, the market should be 2.5-ish Resolve, 3.5-ish Dream of You, and give me $7 or $8 for the rest before I'm having a bet. And that's no disrespect to them, but Dream of You might be one of the more promising trotters in the country. I think it'll end up in the Roe Cup. And we saw on the box seat, David Butcher said, Derek Ball told me to treat it like a trial and he'll get better for this run. Well, if he gets better, he can win. Here's your overs for the meeting. Top 2, top 3 is $1.60, Greg, in a very small field. And flat out he can win, even though Resolve's the top tip. You can make a very strong case, I believe, Greg. You could actually back both of them because one of them's so significantly overs. Yep,
I agree there, Michael. That'll be the last race of the season. The third to last race of the season, Michael, is the box seat hot to trot. And this is an outstanding field. We're highlighting Bet and Win coming from last year. Had a flat tyre for the majority of the race, was first up at Alexandra Park and had no right to get as close to Castana as what Bet and Win did. What's against him this week is this massive field. Gazman's come out, but gee, it's going to be an awfully big job to get right around them, starting from the widest unruly position off 10 metres, Michael. I do like Bet and Win. I think he's a horse of the big future, but there's going to be a lot of horses in front of him and a lot of real estate to get around. He can win it. $2.80 is his price. Kiss and Run was excellent in that race. $9, $5.50 for Castana. Regal Girl, $12. $7.50 for the River Boy, who's won 3 of its last 4. Michael, this might be the best betting contest of the month.
Best named race of the night, GregO.
By miles, Michael.
This is a bet race for me. First of all, Bet and Win I like. I think he has an open class motor. I think his legs are still catching up to his brain, and I think he'll be a very good horse in time. But he's not the bet. Kiss and Run is a great bet in this race. Great bet. It ran in an open class race last start, and it's up against horses who aren't even remotely going to get to open class, apart from Bet and Win. I think it's a great bet. It should be, I think it'll start $4.80. It might start $5. There's a lot of good horses in this race, but no one's going to back them. Castana's one horse they will back. I think Castana's a pretty good horse, and the driver change has helped. But Kiss and Run's a super bet. $9 and whatever it's playing for a place, Gregory. Basically, if you're watching this, you should back it.
Yep, no argument there, Michael. And of course, it did come out of that Dream of You race, and would only need to bring that form to be very hard to beat in that. Really looking forward to that, as I am the 2-year-old race. This is with Brecon Farms. Got a couple of videos to show you here, Michael, because there's a couple of really good chances, one of which comes out of the workout. So let's go and have a look at the last start winning performance here of You're Doing Amazing Sweetie in front. We've seen this before tonight, haven't we, with the Hurley colours. This horse won on debut, has always shown great potential, finished 4th in the Young Guns final behind Cold Chisel, and would only need to bring this, Michael, to be right in the mix.
Yeah, he's a big, strong lump of a horse, and he's got gate speed. That's a big help, Greg. He's got gate speed, and he can still cross these from the outside of the gate, so he'll put himself in the race. And the question will then be, is one of these horses, or are one of these horses, good enough to run past him? And maybe there is. There's a horse in this race who's pretty good. Christopher Dance is a pretty good horse. Mac Pack is the one you've highlighted here, Greg. I don't know a lot about him. I saw this workout. I haven't seen an enormous amount of him, but he's the horse down the outside in the dun colours, and well, clearly he can run.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Tenacious D goes round. That's it in front in the Hollis Robertson colours. Mac Pack storming home to beat him. Tenacious D goes round in race 3. So if you're looking for a line towards Mac Pack, the other thing that I liked about Mac Pack is, what about the family he's out of, Michael? Lady Antebellum. This is the Hey Bartender family. Need You Now, who's a Group 1 winner. The list goes on and on. The Duns have had great success with Billy Badger, Stars Tonight, those sort of horses. So the breeding's all there. And you don't often see them do that at Pookie, just loop to the outside and storm home like that, and did it really nicely for Maddie White. It's drawn inside. Obviously, the horse you mentioned, You're Doing Amazing Sweetie, does have good gate speed, but it's got barrier 8, so it's not going to be easy over the 2,200 metres.
Just on that race, Greg, this is important because I've had a lot to do with Logan Hollis this year. He said, I've just been working for Harness Race in New Zealand writing stories, and he's happened to win a lot of nice races with these 2-year-olds.
Yep.
And I kept saying to him, what do you make of this one? What do you make of that one? And some of them have been sold, and they've all gone on to do good jobs. He said, just something for you. He said, Christopher Dance is the fastest of them. And this was like 3 months ago.
Yep.
And yeah, there were some good horses in their stable. Horses who raced in Group 1s. He said, it's the fastest of them.
Right.
It might be the horse because their horses are often unders. They're often unders, and they're unders when Logan drives them, even though he actually drives them pretty good.
Yep.
I wouldn't be surprised if he comes out and goes really well on Sunday night. So Christopher Dance might be a better horse than, if it was in a bigger barn, it might be half the price. I'm not sure what odds it'll be. The odds weren't available when we were doing this. But yeah, just keep an eye on him, punters. He can win this race.
All right, it's a small race night. There's 8 races, Michael. So if you're thinking end of year, okay, I want to play a multi, do you do it through Resolve and Akuta? or do you look somewhere else, or do you perhaps take that place chance around Kiss and Run? How do you play it?
For a multi?
Yep.
I think Akuta will win. I don't think he's immoral, but I think he'll win. I think Dream of You is massively over the odds, and $1.60 a place in a 6-horse field is great, because he bet all these last time. Kiss and Run a place is a super bet, and Christopher Dance is a very good bet because it won't be as short as it should be for its ability. If you go place Christopher Dance, place Kiss and Run, back Akuta to win if you want, and place Dream of You, you're getting overs all the way through. And then you can even do it as a poker bet because there's enough margin in there, Greg, to give you a chance. I know not everybody backs for a place, but I'm trying to give you a way of making money rather than a way of backing winners. No reason all 4 of those horses can't win.
All right, 4:25 is the start time for the 8-race card out of Alexandra Park. Looking forward to the action there. Those features 7:10 for the Lincoln Farms Franklin Cup, and the last race of the year 7:44 for the Majestic Horse Floats Green Lane Cup. Prior to that, we'll be heading to one of the great meetings. Huge crowd will be there. It's going to be a high of about 29 or 30. We head to the Mott. This is the Paul Renwick Joinery Motukarara Cup. This has got a massive field. Here's a good race to come out of, Michael. This, of course, was the Garage New Zealand Derby. And finishing 5th, the widest of the Telfer colours there is Ultra Meteor. Spoke to Tim Williams. He said, I reckon this is my best chance of winning a race in the near future. And that's it, getting pretty close to running 4th there. Really good performance from Ultra Meteor. Jollymont just hold it out. Merlin Don't Stop Dreaming, sooner the better. It's a great form line for this race, and I reckon he's got a great chance in it. Again, it's a very big field. Starts off 20 metres, but he's got a whole lot of friends back there, Michael. The likes of Hey Bartender, Dashing Major. It's just one of those cracking contests. Don Morrow, who was fantastic last time behind Here's Herbie at Rangiora just prior to Christmas. So, yeah, I thought Ultra Meteor on the each way is an absolute play there at the Mott on Friday.
Well, the format of the 3-year-old races over the last 5 years, heading into grade races, has been enormous. Even more so now, because it's 4. It's effectively 4. It's going to be 4 on Monday, but it's actually 4 already, physically, because I've changed the dates. Those 3-year-olds are just going to turn up in normal races and win a lot more than they lose. That's how it's going to work. Wait till Jollymont gets back to rating 65, whatever it's going to be, Greg. It'll just be braining them. So, yep, can't argue with you there at all, even though they're tricky races to bet into. Those horses who have raced in the Derbies and the Oaks, when they go back to normal races, Greg, particularly early in the new year, because they don't get any rating points for racing in those races. They just get freebies. Whereas if you're a galloper and you run in the New Zealand Oaks and you run 2nd or 3rd, you get a whole bunch of rating points. In the harness, you just don't go up a band at all. You stay in the same grade, more or less. So, you know, I think they're super bets, and the more you can find of them, the better.
Yep, one off 20 metres might be a little bit tricky, but in front of it are Woodbine Rocks, Leicester and Kingsdown Atom, and majority of them step away really quickly, so should get a decent run through, and it's over the 2,810 metres. Massive afternoon there it'll be on Friday. 12 races, the first of those at 12 o'clock, and I'm sure they're going to get a bumper crowd there for the Banks Peninsula, the Mott as they call it, their big day on Friday. All right, we're going to take a short break here on your box seat. On the other side, we'll wrap up all things the 2023 season. Michael and I's highlight for what we thought was the most heartwarming in many ways win of the year, and we'll also give you those horses that we promised last week for you to follow over the next month. Welcome back into your box seat, and a massive thank you to our stable of sponsors whom without we simply couldn't have the show. They've got right behind it over the last 3.5 years, and of course we've got another half a season to go in 2024, so big ups to them. I hope the festive season is treating you well. Michael, we have asked for your best and biggest winning performance of the season for you. You've come up with one that was on Cup Day.
Yeah, Millwood Nike's win in her final on Cup Day was just staggering. Like, it was staggering for what it was, but also the effect it had on other people. So she's 3 wide the whole trip, and she's come out and done this. This is Group 1 quality. The horses you're seeing behind her, second and third there at the moment, they don't end up second and third, are first and second in the New Zealand Oaks, and she puts 5-6 lengths on them after sitting 3 wide for the entire trip. I went out that night, Greg, that was Cup Day. I went out that night and I bumped into the guys from Windsor Park, the galloping stud. And they have no interest in harness racing, but they'd gone to Cup Day. And they were just waxing lyrical. They were saying, that's one of the best fillies I've ever seen. And they were so enthusiastic and so pumped up about her. You realise that the really great horses, the special horses, when they do something special, can capture everybody's imagination. Sadly, that was her second last run, and we didn't get to see her in the Oaks. But she's a very special horse, Greg, and I hope she comes back. There's good indication she will, after having a slight hole in her tendon. But that was one of the great 3-year-old pacing filly performances of all time in the Southern Hemisphere. And the effect it had on everybody on Cup Day, it was the best performance on Cup Day. It was better than Swayze. That's no disrespect to Swayze, because Swayze got the right run to win, Greg.
She didn't.
She absolutely did not.
No. Where does she sit, Michael? The really good fillies, obviously Adore Me comes to mind, horses like the Orange Agent, the All-Stars have had so many of them, Spanish Armada, Fight for Glory, all of those types of horses. Where does she sit?
It's a shame we didn't get to see the Oaks, and it is a bit skewed now because technically she's actually 4 compared with what those horses were back in the day. You know, Hilarious Guest was a great filly. We've had so many great fillies. We've actually produced some incredible 3-year-old fillies over an enormously long period of time. Armalite was a very good 3-year-old filly. She's as good as I've seen, but she's no better than Adore Me. Adore Me's legacy is slightly skewed by the fact that she went on to win a cup and go 47-7. So you automatically think, wow, Adore Me's that. Whereas if you go to the end of her 3-year-old season, of course she didn't race it to Adore Me. So she doesn't have that thing Millwood Nike went on with. She was only beaten once as a 3-year-old, and that was in a very strong Northern Derby. I think Millwood Nike is at least as good as her. I don't have any proof she's better than her, but I've been knocking around harness racing for about 40 years now, Greg. I've never seen a better 3-year-old filly in this part of the world. So she's as good as them. Was she better than them? Hard to know. But I don't think I've seen a 3-year-old filly go as good as that in my life in this part of the world. And I've been to quite a few big meetings in North America. I haven't seen many go better in North America either. That was as good a 3-year-old filly performance as I've seen in either code.
Yep, jaw-dropping stuff. This wasn't jaw-dropping, but as the years rolled on, the significance of this win has become more apparent. It was the winning run of It's Tough. This is in the Avon City Ford New Zealand Welcome Stakes. Really heartwarming to see her get over the top of them here, Katie Cox, with this horse. It was first up. When you consider the record of the All-Stars, Michael, in this race, I think they'd won 9 out of the last 10. A little silence getting second there as well for Matt Purvis. So for the small stables, it was an incredible result, but as we found out as the season went on, with the diagnosis, the unfortunate diagnosis for Katie. This was a massive win. The Group 2 Avon City Ford Welcome Stakes has been a great race for a long time, but for so many more reasons, Katie taking it out with this horse, I think for me it was the most special win of the season, and it took some doing, Michael, because the horse was first up at the races, so to beat the All-Stars just doesn't happen very often.
Yep, I'm sure Katie has watched that plenty of times since. We're all thinking of you, Katie, as we roll into 2024. You keep fighting the good fight, and hopefully this time next year, you'll be back driving out there on the track where you belong. So, yes, Greg, that was one of the more significant wins of the season. Well done in finding it. I'd forgotten about that. But, yes, so many more important things than the money and all the horses on the track. The people are what makes this wonderful industry.
Yep, of course, we're nearly at the end of 2023, which is the end of our season now. So Robert Dunn picks up his third premiership, this time officially with Jenna. So that's magnificent for them to be able to do that. Blair Orange, of course, with his sixth straight premiership. I think we should give some credit to John Dunn too. I think he's been second to him 4 times. So that's great. And Sarah O'Reilly, we mentioned earlier, what a remarkable junior driver's career she's had. She's won the premiership 3 times. She's won the national title 4 times in the championship, and of course she's an Australasian champion. So well done to all of them. We promised you some winners over the next 3 or 4 weeks, so I've got the text machine out, and here's what we've come up with for you. 3 beers deep. He was more than that after American Me won the Invercargill Cup. That's what Brent White went with. Jared O'Reilly thinks Better Be Sharp can win that Paul Renwick Cup off the front. President Flinton, that's obviously a joke. Thanks for that, Todd. Don't know if he can win, but he'll be competitive in his next start, which is on Friday night. Flying Bird for Matthew Williamson, Jimmy Ray, Johnny Morrison. Turnpike Joe was a very good second last time. Nathan Williamson thinks Grub Screw can win. Craig Thornley thinks Clyde can win at the Mott. Steve Telfer likes Delightful Chick. It'll go around sometime in January. Benson Dudes on racing on New Year's Eve. Party Animals one Tony Hurler he thinks is one definitely to follow. He's just not sure where yet. Village Rebel goes to Otaki. Alta Showgirl to Motukarara. Coaster Hare thinks Monarch Prince is going to do a great job. I'm Rocking is selected by both Regan Todd and Robbie Close. Akuta Nathan Purdon, Tim Williams thinks Alta Meteor, Don Toretto for Maddie White, and our Pinocchio. I spoke to Blair Orange on his way home from Gore last night, Michael, and he said, doesn't matter where, on its run yesterday, it'll be winning next time. And a big thank you to all of those who sent in their texts, and a massive thank you, Michael, to all of the participants throughout the year have helped us out, because without them, well, it's only me and you talking, it'd be a pretty blimmin' boring show, I would have thought.
It'll still be fun. Look, it's been an amazing year. It's been a very transitional year. Let's not forget the biggest story of the year has been the Entain involvement with the TAB and all the things that have happened there. And it's great to see presenters back on track for harness racing, telling those stories out of the meetings like the Cup meeting. And that's going to be even bigger in the new year for the Night of Champions at Cambridge Creek. Lots to look forward to. I'm looking forward to Sunday. I'm looking forward to all the grass track racing and all the fun stuff. But yeah, 2024, Greg, I feel like we're turning a corner. The sales will be here very, very quickly, and we start to get our best horses heading back to Australia. So we get to solve some of these arguments, maybe Akuta versus Leap to Fame. There's a lot to look forward to in 2024. Mate, to you and all the team down there in Christchurch, because all I do is come sit here and talk away and enjoy myself. Thanks for putting the show together. These are bloody hard things to do, and you guys do such a great job giving harness racing a voice as it's getting harder to get a voice against the giant machine which is galloping, because it gets a lot more coverage these days. So Greg, to you and to Brittany and all our team down there, thanks for all the help, because it's not an easy thing putting together a television show. I wouldn't know, I've never tried to do it.
Oh, I think you've tried a little bit.
Well, not really.
Well, magnificent to have you on, because most of the time you don't read the script, which most people wouldn't know, Michael. So you just, I just toss the ball up and you smack it. Yeah, it's a waste of time. Don't forget about this, sales. That'll get us back into it. 2024, 18 to 21. And of course, the awards are on as part of that down here in Christchurch. Go to HRNZ to check out that if you want to head along to those on the... Yeah, I'll be there, Michael. Yeah, I'll be there. Monday evening. You were thinking of going? Yeah.
I've got to go now.
Fair enough. Good luck to all the clubs racing over the next wee period. Of course, Cambridge we've got on Friday night. We've got Motukarara, their Big 12 races. They've got $10,000 first fours too, so plenty of reasons to get involved there. The Reefton Fields will be out after Westport second day, and that big meeting at Auckland before we head down south to the Omakars and the Roxburghs and all of those great places. But from Michael and I, that wraps up the year of 2023. It's your birthday in a couple of days, Michael. Hope you enjoy that as well. But for now, we're a month off. We'll see you at the end of January. The Box Seat, brought to you by our stable of sponsors. Harness Link for all your worldwide harness racing coverage. Brecon Farms, New Zealand Bloodstock Standardbred. IRT, it's your horse and our passion. Garrard's Horse and Hound. Lincoln Farms, Renwick Farms, Harness Racing New Zealand. The clubs, Auckland, Cambridge, Addington and Ashburton, and the TAB.